My name is Jessica, and I will be labeling the cranial bones of the skull. So the first bone is the frontal bone, which is right here in the front. Then we have the parietal bone, which is two of them on the side right here. These two bones. Then we have the temporal bone, which is right in here, where the then we have the occipital bone, which is back here, the very back bone. The coronal suture, which is right here in the front, goes down the frontal bone. Then we have the sagittal suture, which is right here, it splits the head down the back. Then we have the squamous suture, which is right here, runs down along the side of the head. Then the lambdoid suture, which goes down in the back into a Y, right here. Then we have the nasal bone, which is right here, the bridge of the nose. We have the maxilla bone, which would be right here. The mandible bone, which is right here, which is also known as the jaw. The mental foramen, which is right here, kind of known as the chin. The mandibular ramus, which is right here, kind of like the dip right here. And the mandibular notch, which is right here. The mandibular condyle, which is right here, which connects the jaw to the skull. Then we have the coronal process of the mandible, which is right here. Then we have the zygomatic bone, which is right here, which is known as the cheekbone. The sphenoid bone, which is right here, located close to the temporal bone. The ethmoid bone, which is right in here, almost like in the middle of the eye. The lateral bone, which is right around here, kind of like around the eye socket. The nasolacrimal bone, which goes right down here, circles around the nose. The supraorbital foramen, which is up here, above the eye cavity. The infraorbital foramen, which is down here. The superior orbital fissure, which is inside of the eye, up here. Then the inferior orbital fissure, which is lower down here inside of the eye. The vomer bone, which is right here, like the very end of the nose. The perpendicular plate of the ethmoid bone, which is right there, the plate of the nose. The middle and inferior conch. Middle is up here, inferior is down here. Then we have the anterior nasal spine, which runs from here to the maxilla. So for the external auditory meatus and all of that, since I didn't have like an actual skull, you can't see the inside of it, I drew dots on the back so I could point at where each one is. So the external auditory meatus is right here, this little dot right here. Then we have the glabella, which is right here, also known as the forehead. The optic canal, which is right here, where the eye is, the eye socket. Then we have the foramen ovale, which is right here, these two little dots right here. The foramen lacrium, which are up here, those two little dots up there. The foramen spinosum, which is right here. And I didn't draw a dot for that, but it was right in here. The carotid canal, which is right here. The jugular foramen, which is under the carotid canal right here. The palatine bone, which is right here, like the palate where the teeth are. And then this little dot right here is the incisive fossa. Okay, then we have the foramen magnum, which is right here, the big hole in the back. The mastoid process is located right here, like on the side. And then the styloid process is a little bit lower beside of it, and it's usually a bone that kind of sticks out. So then we have the stylomastoid foramen, which was this little dot right here. And for the crista galla and cribriform plate, the sella tertia, and the internal auditory meatus, I couldn't really list them because I didn't have the inside of the skull. But the internal auditory meatus is inside of the skull. They're all inside, and there's 2 of the internal auditory meatuses on each. There's 1 on each side. The crista galla is kind of located like further up in here in the skull, at the kind of like at the top. The cribriformin plate is a little bit lower than the crista galla, and then the sella tertia is located a little bit behind the cribriformin plate. And those are the cranial bones of the skull.